chosen one. Something has just shifted in the unseen, and your name was spoken in that moment. Not later, not tomorrow, but now. This is not coincidence. This is interruption, a divine interruption. Anointed one, you didn't scroll into this message. Heaven positioned you here. Because there is a door in front of you right now, one that has been forming through every delay, every silent season, every moment you thought nothing was happening. And now, suddenly, everything is ready. But hear this carefully, not every door stays open. There are moments in the Spirit where timing becomes sacred. Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verse 1 says there is a time for every purpose under heaven, and this is your time. Not a rehearsal, not a preview. This is the moment where breakthrough either manifests or passes. Chosen one. What you have been waiting for has already been released. Provision is aligning. Answers are moving. What felt blocked is beginning to shift. But there is a posture required, an awareness, a willingness to stay present in what heaven is revealing. This message carries something you cannot afford to miss. And if your spirit recognizes this moment, subscribe and stay connected, because not every message is for everyone, but this one was meant for you. Now listen closely, because what comes next will reveal why this door is open and what happens if you don't step through it now. Chosen one, stay right here with me, because what you are feeling right now is not pressure, it is alignment. There is a moment in the Spirit where everything pauses, not because nothing is happening, but because everything is about to converge at once, and you have stepped into that exact moment. You may not see it yet with your eyes, but your spirit has already begun to recognize it. That quiet tension in your chest, that alertness in your thoughts that pull you, couldn't explain. That is not confusion. That is heaven narrowing the path in front of you. Anointed one. There are seasons where doors are open wide and you can wander, delay, or return later. But then there are sacred windows, moments that do not repeat themselves, moments where a decision, a posture, or even your attention determines whether you step into what has already been prepared or watch it pass by. And I need you to understand something clearly. This is not about fear. This is about timing. There have been doors in your life before, opportunities, relationships, ideas, callings that came close but didn't fully manifest. And part of you wondered if you missed something, if you hesitated too long, or if it simply wasn't meant for you. But what you didn't see was that those moments were preparation. They were training your discernment, sharpening your awareness, teaching you how to recognize when something is truly from heaven. Because this moment is different, you are not being asked to chase anything. You are being asked to stay aligned. There is a door forming in front of you right now, not a physical one, but a spiritual opening tied to your purpose, your provision, and your next level of assignment. And what makes this moment so intense is that the door is not waiting on effort, it is responding to alignment. That is why your spirit feels this urgency. Not because something is chasing you, but because something is opening. And here is what most people do not understand. Breakthrough does not begin when the door opens. Breakthrough begins when you recognize that it is opening. Habakkuk chapter 2 verse 3 says, "The vision waits for an appointed time, and though it tarries, it will surely come. But when it comes, it does not wait forever." Chosen one. What has been delayed in your life is not being denied anymore. It is being released, but release requires readiness. Think about the times you felt overlooked, when doors seemed to close without explanation, when people walked away or opportunities dissolved right when you thought they would finally work. It felt like loss. It felt like rejection. But in truth, it was protection. Because what is opening now requires a version of you that can sustain it, not just receive it. And that version of you has been formed in silence, in the late nights when you questioned everything, in the quiet seasons when nothing seemed to move, in the moments when you had to keep going without confirmation, without applause, without visible progress. That was not wasted time. That was construction. Now the structure is complete and the door is responding. But listen carefully, anointed one, because this is where many miss it. The enemy does not always block your breakthrough. Sometimes all he has to do is distract you at the moment it arrives. A shift of attention, a moment of doubt, a small disengagement. And suddenly what was opening begins to close, not because it wasn't meant for you, but because you were pulled out of alignment at the critical moment. That is why your focus matters right now. That is why your presence in this moment matters, because something is already moving toward you. You may not have the full picture yet, but pieces are already shifting. Conversations are aligning, opportunities are forming, decisions are being influenced in rooms you have never stepped into. And all of it is converging toward a single moment where the door becomes visible. And when that moment comes, it will not announce itself loudly. It will appear quietly. It will require discernment. It will require you to recognize what your spirit has already been sensing. Chosen. 1. You are closer than you think, not to the beginning of something, but to the release of something that has been prepared for a long time. And what makes this moment so sacred is that once you see it, you will realize it was forming all along. But there is something else you need to understand before that door fully reveals itself, something about what happens in the final moments before breakthrough actually manifests. There is a reason the pressure increases right before something breaks open. It is not resistance trying to stop you. It is alignment tightening around you. The closer you get to what has been assigned to your life, the more everything begins to narrow. Distractions feel louder, emotions feel heavier, and your thoughts seem to move faster than usual. But this is not chaos. This is compression, and compression always comes before release. Chosen one, you are standing at the edge of a moment that has been forming long before you became aware of it. This is not something that started today. This has been building through every season you survived, through every delay that forced you to grow, through every closed door that redirected your path. What felt like scattered experiences were actually precise alignments positioning you for a moment that required a specific version of you. And that version of you is here now. You may still remember the times when you felt behind, when you questioned why others seemed to move forward while you remained in place. You may recall moments where you wondered if you were forgotten, if your efforts were unseen, if your prayers were unanswered. But what you could not see then was that your life was being arranged differently. You were not being delayed, you were being developed. Because what is opening now is not something you could have handled in your earlier seasons. This is why the door is so specific. It is not just a random opportunity. It is not just another chance. It is a doorway connected to purpose, provision, and responsibility. And when it opens, it will not just change what you have. It will change who you are required to be. That is why heaven has been so intentional with your process. There were things that had to fall away from you, mindsets that could not follow you into this next level, attachments that would have slowed you down. Even certain people had to be removed not as punishment, but as preparation, because not everyone who was with you in survival can go with you into stewardship. And this next season requires stewardship. This is not about gaining more for the sake of having more. This is about being entrusted with something that carries weight. Whether it is influence, resources, opportunities, or connections, what is being released to you is tied to something greater than your personal comfort. It is tied to your assignment. That is why the door is sensitive. It responds to alignment, not effort. It responds to awareness, not urgency. And this is where many misunderstand breakthrough. They believe it comes through striving, through pushing harder, through forcing outcomes. But the kind of breakthrough you are stepping into does not come through force. It comes through positioning. Isaiah chapter 60 verse 1 says, "Arise and shine, for your light has come." Notice it does not say, "Create the light." It says, "Your light has come," meaning there are moments when heaven brings something to you, and your role is not to chase it, but to recognize it and step into it. This is that moment. And yet there is still a tension inside you, a quiet hesitation. Not because you do not want what is coming, but because part of you still remembers the pain of what did not work before. Part of you is cautious. Part of you is waiting for confirmation. And that is understandable. But listen carefully, anointed one. This is not the same as before. You are not the same as before. The version of you that experienced those past disappointments has been transformed. You carry a different awareness now. You see things differently, you discern differently, you respond differently. And because of that, what is being presented to you now will not be handled the same way. That is why this door can open. But here is the truth you must hold on to. When the moment comes, it will require movement. Not rushed movement, not anxious movement, but aligned movement. There will be a step that only you can take, a response that cannot be delayed, a decision that must be made while the door is still open. And this is where the warning becomes real. Not everything in life can be returned to later. Some moments are designed to pass if they are not embraced in the time they are given. Not because they were not meant for you, but because they were meant for a specific moment of readiness. And readiness is now. You may not feel fully prepared, but you are positioned. You may not see the entire path, but the next step is already clear in your spirit. That inner knowing, you have been feeling that quiet voice guiding you, that sense that something is about to shift, that is not imagination. That is instruction. And the more you stay aligned, the clearer it becomes. Right now, things are already being set in motion around you. People are being moved. Outcomes are being rearranged. Doors that once seemed locked are beginning to loosen. And you are not being asked to force any of it. You are being asked to remain present, aware, and ready. Because the moment is approaching where what has been unseen becomes visible. And when it does, it will not look as dramatic as you expected. It will appear simple, almost ordinary. But your spirit will recognize it immediately. And in that recognition, everything will shift. But before that happens, there is something deeper that must be understood about why this door carries so much weight and what is actually attached to it beyond what you can currently see. What you are about to step into is not just a moment of opportunity, it is a moment of transfer. And this is where many fail to understand the weight of what stands before them. Because the door in front of you is not only opening into something new, it is closing behind something old. You cannot carry both. You cannot remain who you were and step fully into what has been prepared. Chosen one. This is where the internal battle begins. It is not a battle with people. It is not even a battle with circumstances. It is a battle within your own awareness. One part of you recognizes the shift and feels the pull forward. Another part of you hesitates, trying to hold on to what feels familiar, what feels safe, what feels known. And this tension is not weakness, it is the final separation between your past identity and your emerging assignment. Because what is on the other side of this door requires clarity. It requires you to see yourself differently. not as someone waiting for change, but as someone stepping into responsibility, not as someone hoping for provision, but as someone trusted with it. And that shift is not always comfortable because it demands that you release the old narrative you have carried for so long. The narrative of delay, the narrative of lack, the narrative of being overlooked. Those identities cannot cross this threshold. Anointed One. There are things attached to your past that are trying to follow you into this moment, not because they belong there, but because they have become familiar. Old doubts, old fears, old patterns of thinking that once protected you in seasons of uncertainty, but now they are no longer protection, they are limitation. And if you're not aware of this, you can stand at the very edge of breakthrough and still hesitate. This is why discernment is critical right now, because not every voice in your mind is aligned with where you are going. Some voices are echoes from previous seasons. Some are shaped by past disappointments. Some are rooted in experiences that no longer define your present reality. And if you listen to those voices in this moment, they will try to convince you to slow down, to question, to wait a little longer. But waiting is no longer the instruction. There was a time for waiting. There was a time for preparation. There was a time for endurance. But now the instruction has shifted, and if you continue to operate in a mindset that belonged to your past season, you risk missing what is present in front of you now. This is what makes this moment so precise. Because the door is not just opening outward, it is requiring an inward shift at the same time. You are not just stepping into something new, you are stepping out of something old. And that transition happens in a moment, but it is felt deeply. You may notice it as a sudden clarity, a realization that certain things no longer fit you the way they used to. Conversations that once held your attention now feel empty. Environments that once felt normal now feel misaligned. Even your own thoughts begin to shift, as if something inside you is rearranging itself. That is not confusion. That is recalibration. And it is necessary because what you are about to receive requires a different internal structure. It requires stability awareness and the ability to move with precision. This is not a moment for scattered energy. This is a moment for focused alignment. And yet there is still something you must understand. The door in front of you is not only about what you will gain, it is also about what will be entrusted to you. Because with every level of breakthrough comes a level of responsibility. What you receive will not just benefit you, it will extend beyond you. It will impact others, influence outcomes, and shape environments. This is why your process has been so intentional, because heaven does not release weight into hands that are not ready to carry it. And you have been prepared not just to receive, but to steward, to handle what comes with wisdom, with awareness, and with purpose. That is why the door is opening now. But here is the part that most people never see. Right before a door like this becomes visible, there is often an increase in subtle resistance. Not loud, obvious resistance, but quiet distractions. Small shifts in focus. Unexpected interruptions. Thoughts that seem harmless, but pull your attention away just enough to disconnect you from the moment. And if you are not grounded, you may not even realize it is happening. You may think it is just another thought, just another distraction, just another moment of uncertainty. But in reality, it is an attempt to move you out of alignment at the exact moment alignment matters most. That is why your awareness must remain sharp. Because what is in front of you is not something that forces itself into your life. It is something that responds to your alignment with it. And alignment requires presence. It requires you to be fully aware of what is happening within you and around you. Right now, something is being positioned. You cannot see it fully yet, but it is taking shape, and the closer it gets, the more important your focus becomes. Because when it arrives, it will not wait for you to catch up. It will meet you where you are. And the question is not whether it is coming. The question is whether you will be aligned when it does. Because what stands behind this door is not just breakthrough. It is a shift that will redefine the direction of your life in ways you have not yet fully understood. There is something else you must see clearly, chosen one, because this is where the weight of the moment becomes undeniable. The door in front of you is not just an opportunity, it is a separation point. It divides two timelines, two outcomes, two versions of your life that cannot exist at the same time. One continues as things have been familiar, predictable, limited by past cycles. The other shifts, everything accelerating you into a path that was always intended but never fully accessed. And the difference between those two paths will not be decided by effort. It will be decided by awareness in a single moment. That is why your spirit has been restless. That is why there has been a quiet urgency building inside you. Not anxiety, not fear, but a deep knowing that something is approaching and that you cannot afford to miss it. You may not have had the language for it before, but now you can feel it more clearly. Something is calling you forward, not loudly, not forcefully, but with a steady pull that refuses to fade. Anointed one. This is what it feels like when destiny begins to surface. It does not always come with clarity at first. It comes with awareness, a sense that things are shifting even before you can explain how. You begin to notice small changes, subtle movements, moments that feel different from the ordinary rhythm of your life. And if you are not attentive, you might dismiss them. You might overlook them. You might think they are just coincidences. But they are not. They are signals. Because before the door fully reveals itself, there are always signs, indicators that something is aligning behind the scenes. Conversations that seem random but carry meaning. Ideas that surface unexpectedly. Opportunities that appear small but feel significant. These are not the breakthrough itself, but they are connected to it. And this is where many lose it. They are waiting for something obvious, something dramatic, something undeniable. But the door does not always appear that way. It often begins as something simple, something easy to overlook, something that requires discernment to recognize its true weight. That is why you must stay aware. Because what is about to be placed in front of you may not look like everything you expected. It may not come with the full picture. It may not feel complete at first, but your spirit will know. There will be a recognition that goes beyond logic, beyond analysis, beyond what can be explained. And in that moment, you will have a choice. Not a loud, dramatic choice, but a quiet, decisive one. To move forward or to hesitate, to trust what you sense or to retreat into what feels familiar. And this is where everything changes, because hesitation, even for a moment, can shift your alignment, not permanently, but enough to delay what is ready now. Chosen one, you have delayed enough. Not by failure, not by mistake, but by process. There were seasons where delay was necessary, where timing was not yet right, where things had to be arranged, where you had to grow, where your environment had to shift. But that season is not where you are now. Now you are at the edge of release. And release does not wait for comfort. It requires readiness. You may still feel traces of uncertainty, and that is natural. But do not confuse uncertainty with lack of readiness. You are ready even if you do not feel completely confident, because readiness is not about having all the answers. It is about being aligned with the moment when the door appears. And that alignment is happening now. There is something else moving beneath the surface that you need to be aware of. as this door approaches, there are also forces that recognize what is happening, not in a way that can stop what has been prepared for you, but in a way that will attempt to interfere with your focus. Distractions will not come as obvious obstacles. They will come as small shifts, a thought that pulls you away, a moment of doubt that causes you to question, a situation that demands your attention just enough to break your awareness. And if you are not grounded, you may not even notice it. You may think you simply got distracted, that you lost focus for a moment. But in reality, that moment is critical, because the door does not force itself open again once it has been presented. It responds to the moment it is given. That is why your stillness matters. Your ability to remain present, to stay aware, to not let your attention drift when it matters most, that is what keeps you aligned. Psalm 46, verse 10 says, "Be still and know." Stillness is not inactivity. It is awareness without distraction. It is the ability to recognize what is happening without being pulled away from it. And this is what is required of you now. To be still enough to see, to be aware enough to recognize, to be aligned enough to move when the moment arrives, because what is about to appear is not random. It has your name on it. It has been prepared through seasons you have already walked through, and when it comes into view, it will carry a weight that your spirit will not be able to ignore. But there is one more layer to this, that you have not yet seen, something that will determine not just whether you recognize the door, but whether you are able to walk through it when it opens. There is a final layer that most never recognize until it is too late, and this is where the true weight of this moment is revealed. The door does not just require recognition, it requires response. And response is where many chosen ones hesitate, not because they are unwilling, but because they are still measuring the moment through the lens of their past. Chosen one. You have been trained to question sudden shifts. You have learned to be cautious when something feels too close, too fast, too significant. That caution protected you in previous seasons, but now it can become the very thing that slows you down at the moment you are meant to move. Because what is arriving will not match the pace of your past. It will feel accelerated. It will feel unexpected. And if you try to analyze it through logic alone, you may delay just long enough to lose the alignment that made it possible. This is why faith becomes active here. Not passive belief, not distant hope, but active trust in what your spirit already recognizes. Hebrews chapter 11 verse 1 says, "Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen." In this moment, your evidence will not be external. It will be internal. A knowing that does not need full explanation, a clarity that does not require confirmation from others. Anointed one, you must trust that knowing, because the door is not waiting for perfect understanding. It is waiting for alignment in motion, and movement does not always look dramatic. Sometimes it is a single decision, a simple yes, a willingness to step forward even when the full path is not yet visible. And that is what separates those who witness opportunity from those who step into it. You are not being asked to be fearless. You are being asked to be aligned. There is a difference. Fear may still exist at the edges of your awareness, but alignment overrides hesitation. It anchors you in what is true rather than what is uncertain. And right now, what is true is that something has been prepared for you, something that is already in motion, something that will not remain available indefinitely. That is why the urgency is present, not to pressure you, but to position you. Because the longer you remain aligned, the clearer everything becomes. The noise fades. The distractions lose their grip. The uncertainty begins to dissolve. And what once felt overwhelming starts to feel precise, almost inevitable. You begin to see how everything connects. You start to recognize how past events were not random, how certain delays were actually redirections, how moments you thought were losses were actually placements. And suddenly what is in front of you no longer feels unfamiliar. It feels like the continuation of something that has always been forming. That is when confidence shifts. Not from external validation, but from internal recognition. Chosen one. This is where you step out of waiting and into participation. You are no longer observing what is happening. You are becoming part of it. And this is where responsibility meets opportunity. Because once you move, things begin to respond. Doors open further. Paths become clearer. What was hidden starts to reveal itself in layers. But it begins with your response. And this is why hesitation matters so much in this moment. Not because it cancels what has been prepared, but because it can delay the manifestation of it. And delay, when unnecessary, creates distance between you and what is ready now. You have already waited through seasons that required patience. This is not that season. This is a season of alignment and movement. And you will know when the moment arrives because it will carry a clarity that cuts through confusion. It will feel direct. It will feel specific. It will not require you to force anything. It will simply require you to step. That step may seem small on the surface, but it will carry weight in the spirit, because it is not just a step forward, it is a step through limitation, through delay, through everything that has kept you on one side of the door. And once you move, there is no returning to the same level of awareness you had before, because something shifts permanently. Your perspective changes, your expectations adjust, your understanding deepens, and what once felt distant becomes accessible. This is what breakthrough actually is. Not just receiving something new, but becoming someone who can walk in it. And you are there now, closer than you have ever been, more aware than you have ever been, more aligned than you have ever been. But there is still one more thing you must understand, something that will determine how quickly everything unfolds once you step through that door. Once you step through, the pace will change. And this is where many are not prepared, not because they lack ability, but because they are still expecting life to move at the same speed it always has. But anointed one, what is ahead of you does not operate under the same timing you have been used to. This is where acceleration begins, and acceleration can feel just as disorienting as delay if you do not understand what is happening. For so long, you have been in seasons where progress was slow, where answers took time, where doors seemed to resist every attempt to open them. You learned patience, you learned endurance, you learned how to keep going even when nothing seemed to move. But now, the rhythm is shifting. Things will begin to happen faster than you expect. Opportunities will come closer together. Decisions will need to be made more quickly. Connections will form in ways that feel almost immediate. And if you try to slow it down to match your old pace, you may find yourself struggling to stay aligned with what is unfolding. Chosen. One acceleration is not chaos. It is alignment, moving without resistance. When you're in the right position, things no longer need to be forced. They begin to flow. What once took years begins to take months. What once took months begins to take weeks. Not because time itself has changed, but because you have moved into a space where resistance has been removed. And this is what you must be ready for, because acceleration requires trust at a different level. It requires you to move when things open, not after everything is fully explained. It requires you to stay grounded even when everything around you is shifting quickly. And most importantly, it requires you to remain aligned internally so that external movement does not pull you out of position. This is why your inner stability matters now more than ever. Because when things begin to move quickly, it is easy to become overwhelmed if your foundation is not steady. But you have been prepared for this. Every season of waiting built something in you that you now carry into this moment. You are not stepping into acceleration unprepared. You are stepping into it equipped. And yet, there is still a level of awareness you must maintain, because as things begin to open, there will be new voices, new opinions, new influences trying to attach themselves to what's happening in your life. Some will mean well, some will not. But not every voice is meant to guide you in this season. This is where discernment becomes protection, because what is opening for you is specific. It is not meant to be shaped by outside pressure or redirected by other people's expectations. It is meant to unfold according to the alignment that brought you here. And that means you must stay connected to that alignment. Not everything that presents itself will be for you, even if it looks similar to what you have been waiting for. Not every opportunity will carry the same weight. Some will be distractions dressed as progress. Some will be options that look appealing but are not connected to your assignment. And if you are not aware, you may try to take on too much, move in too many directions, or lose focus on what truly matters. But the door you are stepping through is not about quantity. It is about precision. It is about moving in the direction that has been prepared for you, not every direction that becomes available. And this is where your discipline in alignment becomes just as important as your willingness to move. Because once acceleration begins, you cannot go back to being passive. You are now actively participating in what is unfolding. And participation requires awareness, intention, and clarity. But here is something that will anchor you in this process. You're not doing this alone. The same alignment that brought you to this moment is still guiding you through it. The same presence that prepared you is still with you. You are not being left to figure this out on your own. You're being led step by step, moment by moment. And when you stay connected to that, everything remains clear. Even when things move quickly, you will not feel lost. Even when decisions need to be made, you will not feel confused. Because the same clarity that helped you recognize the door will continue to guide you beyond it. That is why you must not lose that connection, because the speed of what is coming will not slow down to match hesitation. It will continue to move. And you will either move with it, or you will find yourself trying to catch up. But you were not brought this far to fall out of alignment now. You were brought here to move with what has been prepared. And as everything begins to accelerate, there is still one final truth that must be understood, something that will determine how you carry what is coming and what it ultimately produces through your life. There is one final truth that anchors everything you are stepping into, and without it, even the greatest breakthrough can lose its purpose. What is coming into your life is not just for you, it is meant to move through you. This is where everything becomes clear, because the door you are walking through is not the end of your journey. It is the beginning of your assignment at a higher level. Chosen one. What you are receiving carries responsibility, not the kind that weighs you down, but the kind that expands your reach. Because what is being placed in your hands is not just provision, it is influence. It is the ability to shift environments, to open doors for others, to create movement beyond your own life. And this is why your process was so intentional, because what you carry now cannot be handled with the mindset of survival. You are no longer surviving. You are stepping into stewardship. And stewardship changes everything. It changes how you see what you receive. It changes how you respond to opportunities. It changes how you handle what is entrusted to you, because now it is no longer just about getting through your own challenges. It is about becoming a vessel that multiplies what has been given. This is the deeper meaning of what is unfolding. Not just breakthrough, but multiplication. Not just access, but expansion. Not just arrival, but impact. And this is why the door had to be timed the way it was, because you needed to reach a place where you could carry this without losing yourself in it, where you could remain grounded, aware, and aligned even as things begin to grow. Anointed One, there will be moments ahead where you look around and realize how much has changed. Doors that once seemed impossible will open naturally. Situations that once felt heavy will feel light. What used to require effort will begin to flow, and in those moments you must remember what brought you here. It was not luck, it was not coincidence, it was alignment. And alignment must be maintained, because what has been opened can continue to expand as long as you remain connected to the same awareness that positioned you at this door. This is not a one-time moment. This is a new way of moving, a new level of understanding, a new rhythm that will continue to unfold as you stay aligned. But there is also something you must guard. As things begin to grow, there will be new levels of attention, new environments, new dynamics that come with what you carry. And not all of it will be aligned with your purpose. Some will try to attach themselves to your movement to benefit from what is happening without understanding the weight of it. This is where your discernment must remain sharp. Because not everything that comes toward you is meant to stay with you. Some things will pass through. Some people will come and go. Some opportunities will present themselves only to test your focus. And if you are not aware, you may begin to carry things that were never meant to be yours. But you have been trained for this. Every season you walked through taught you something about what to hold on to and what to release. And now that understanding becomes your protection. You will know what aligns and what does not. You will feel it immediately. And you must trust that. Because your path is specific. It is not meant to be crowded with distractions. It is meant to be clear, intentional, and aligned with what has been prepared. And as you walk forward, there will be confirmation, not always in loud or dramatic ways, but in consistent alignment. Doors continuing to open, paths becoming clearer, provision arriving at the right time. You will begin to see a pattern, a rhythm that confirms you are exactly where you are meant to be. And in that rhythm, your confidence will grow, not in yourself alone, but in the alignment that is guiding you. Chosen One, you did not miss this moment. You did not arrive too late. You are not behind. You are exactly where you need to be. And the door that has opened for you was never meant to stay closed forever. It was waiting for you to be ready to walk through it. Now you have. And everything from this moment forward will begin to reflect that shift. Walk with awareness. Move with alignment. Carry what has been entrusted to you with purpose. And remember, you are not stepping into something uncertain. You are stepping into something that has already been prepared. This is not the end of what you have been waiting for. This is the beginning of what you were always meant to become. Chosen One, receive this moment in stillness. What has been spoken over you is not fading when this message ends. It is already moving. Alignment has begun. Doors are shifting quietly even now in places you cannot see. What felt delayed is no longer waiting. Your Kairos moment has been activated, and heaven is positioning everything in perfect order. Anointed One, walk forward with calm assurance. You do not need to force what has already been released. Stay aligned, stay aware, and remain in peace. The same presence that brought you to this moment will guide every step that follows. What is yours will recognize you, and what is not will fall away without confusion. Let gratitude anchor you. Let expectation remain steady. And let your spirit stay open to the movement unfolding around you. If this message has settled in your spirit, seal it with a simple Amen in the comments, not as a habit, but as a declaration that you receive what has been set in motion. And if you feel led, remain connected here so you do not miss the next message meant for your path. Go now, chosen one, with clarity in your mind, peace in your heart, and confidence in your steps. What has begun will not be stopped. Your season is no longer approaching. It has already begun.